Hi everybody, I am Brian Mullins the Fox. Back to you all, but with another falling maple orange political rant. This will be a part 1 of sorts, about the Alberta separation referendum. This time, I'll discuss and rant about possibly the major catalyst that leads Canada to falling maple orange before any faux invitation to a Christmas dinner is set. Despite Carney saying that Canada's no longer friends with the US and all that other bullshit I'll go over in a hot minute. On October 19, 2026, the government of Alberta will officially hold an Alberta separation referendum, consisting of 10 questions, including the following. Should Alberta remain a province of Canada, or should the government of Alberta commence the legal process required under the Canadian Constitution to hold a binding provincial referendum on whether or not Alberta should separate from Canada? Talk about an October revolution. This may be the most painful part of Canada's death as a nation. And some Canadians think this won't do anything to make Alberta its own country, let alone the United States of America's 51st state. It will never be the 51st state of our great nation. It'll be a co-autonomous territory of the United States for AI to be militarized to address any and all enemies of America. I think that these Canadian libtards are well and beyond retarded. They're all a lost cause. I bet $1 million that they won't even see falling maple orange coming, even if I've warned them all the most times. You can't even fucking warn them of an impending turkey and swan sandwich, for fuck's sake. Nowadays, it's like no matter how right you actually are on something, you'll still be denied the credit and respect you deserve. Nobody cares about the truth, nobody cares about the prospect of tens of millions of dead bodies littering Canada like it was a giant Jonestown. Nobody would ever want to think for themselves anymore, because they were raised by a bunch of narcissistic assholes who could never do the same before they die. Here are my official predictions as to this event. 1. The vast majority of Canadians will most likely vote for Alberta to stay in Canada, only for the government of Alberta to follow through with the opposite option, taking legal steps towards separating from Canada. 2. Canadians would feel like they're on the verge of apocalypse as Canada is dying as a country, through and through. Some of them will practice what is called a suicide rehearsal, just like what Jones and his cult have been doing leading up to November 18, 1978. 3. This will happen a week after what may be considered Canada's last Thanksgiving. This is in light of the fact that Mark Carney, the bastard tyrant, declared war on Trump and America because his so-called deal with America and Trump blew up in his motherfucking face once the fuck again. He then decided to end all trade talk with the US and become China's favorite cocksock. This is the first time that Alberta and Albertans have considered becoming independent, and it may be their last because of what lies ahead. This may not push Canadians over the edge to their deaths, but Trump's assassination by tainted and poisoned Christmas turkey will. Not only will the tainted turkey be a bad omen, the color orange in this context will be an even worse one to boot. But it is not the first time that any province tried to separate from Canada. Quebec tried that twice, the first time in the last year of the 1970s, on May 20th, 1980. The second and final time, on October 30th, 1995. It's the same pattern as the ones involving culture shock. And my worst fear is that the voters' potential demand that Alberta stay in Canada will be in vain either way, because Alberta no longer wanting to be part of Canada comes out of desperation and demoralization. The two exact things that led to the roast game, this event on top of the culture shock of 2025, and eventually this Christmas, falling maple orange, so the votes will not even fucking matter anymore. It will have to leave Canada, for its own good and possibly for America and other countries. Voters can't even vote for their own future, because these faggots don't even realize that they don't have one. This will be the third and potentially only time that any province ever has gotten the vote to separate and succeed, and the culture shock not related to Christmas dinner will send them into overdrive with one goal in mind before offing themselves because they're crazed and evil lunatics. Try to kill as many people within the group they deem the enemy of all Canada, the separatist movement, as they can. Another example of past and present events having the same things in common as the future will have. Poetry in motion, the butterfly effect at play, and it continues to be that way.
And if this happens at all, and the separatist movement succeeds in having Alberta start the process of separating from Canada, the inevitable fate will be sealed. Ottawa would have no excuse for covering up what will be undoubtedly the most egregious fascistic downfall of a country quite like Canada. And yes, that means that if that actually ends up happening at all, it's only a matter of literal time as to when it all goes down. From that point forward, The timeline in Falling Maple Orange's topical history will be easier done than written. Christmas dinner is the primary thing and reason why the roast game, as the forerunner event, will be and is connected to Falling Maple Orange. And another thing before I continue with this long-winded rant, I got to point something out. When Mark Carney declares that Canada's at war with Trump and the United States of America, that is akin to the same level of schizophrenia that Jim Jones afflicted himself with long after he started his massive drug addiction. The more he says shit like that, the more that all Canadians are going to get completely fucked. Imagine millions of conservative Canadians who voted for Alberta to start the process of separating from Canada being chased around and killed as others kill themselves. By injecting poison to the turkey of all the Canadian Christmas dinner tables in all of Canada, they'd have a Yuletide white night for real that time. Falling Maple Orange is only going to be either a little past a quarter or barely almost half the bloodbath the roast game has ever been in both countries combined. And it being divine punishment is the most fitting bit of it all. That's why the meme on your screen has been on there this entire video. Because if Alberta begins the process of leaving Canada, the more libtarded Canadians push the country and all other Canadians with it into an apocalyptic death frenzy. Before I end this long-winded rant video, I have one more thing to say. No matter how you think or say that it will never happen this way, life always comes full circle. Humans will all return to dust, and the only thing left to figure the fuck out is when should others start dusting us off before they turn into dust themselves. I'm Brian Mullins the Fox, signing out.